The Wizards of Once, Chapter 5. When bad stars cross and worlds collide. I most certainly will not surrender, said Wish. You cheated! Wizards do not play by warrior rules, said Tsar. Cheat of a wizard! Wickedness of a warrior! Curse make a forest poison a child eater! Magic destroyer, may you be ground by the teeth of a great grey ogre into pieces that are smaller than the eyes of a lice on a fly, cursed Tsar. Both Tsar and Wish were cold and tired and had just had a terrible fright. Fear had turned into anger, as it so often will, and they settled easily into shouting the kind of insults and nasty language at each other that had been exchanged between wizards and warriors since the warriors first invaded from across the seas, and the two sets of humans met and battled in the wild woods centuries before. Tsar's face was flushed with temper, and he held the sword over Wish's head in such a purposeful fashion that Bodkin shouted at her, "Don't kill her! She's the daughter of Queen Sycorax, and if you kill her, Queen Sycorax's revenge will be terrible!" Tsar stared at Wish in astonishment. A daughter of Queen Sycorax? But you can't be! Queen Sycorax was a legend in the forest, known for her cruelty and height and her pitiless warrior strength. How could this tiny matchstick of a girl be scary Queen Sycorax's daughter? A daughter of Queen Sycorax! Kill her, kill her, kill her, kill her! Hissed the sprites, creeping through the air towards Wish, their bows loaded with the most deadly of their curses. One word from Tsar and they would let them fly. Tsar had always boasted that if he ever met an enemy, he would kill them instantly. But boasts are one thing, and actually killing a real live girl your own age who's right in front of you and clearly terrified, though trying not to be, with a sword you've just cheated her out of, well, that's another thing. And Tsar found he couldn't do it. My ancestors would have done it, thought Tsar guiltily. Luther would not have hesitated. But Tsar paused uncertainly. And then, to his further surprise, he found himself being attacked by what appeared to be a spoon, making ferocious lunges and rapping him painfully on the head. "I'll call off my spoon if you call off your bear," panted Wish. To the disappointment of the sprites, who were hissing like hornets, Tsar lowered the enchanted sword and gave a sign to his bear, who let Bodkin go with a grunt. The enchanted spoon stopped rapping Tsar on his head and gave him a small, apologetic bow and hopped back down to Wish. The wizard and the warrior stared at each other in amazement, still hostile and suspicious, but also curious. "I am Wish, daughter of Sycorax, queen of the warriors," said Wish, "and this is my assistant bodyguard, Bodkin. Who are you?" "I am Tsar the Magnificent, son of Encanso, king of the wizards," said Tsar. "These are my companions, my wolves, my bear, my snow cats, King Cat, Night Eye, Forest Heart, my bird Caliburn, my giant Crusher, and my sprites Ariel, Mustard Thought, Tippenstorm, Hunky Punk, and Timeloss." The sprites weaved viciously round the warriors' heads, sparking and burning menacingly. "Don't forget us," squeaked Squeeze-Juice. "Oh yes, these are sprites too, but they're so young we call them hairy fairies," said Tsar. "Bumbleboozle and the baby and Squeeze-Juice," whispered Squeeze-Juice into Bodkin's ear suddenly and alarmingly. The long trail of his antennae sent goosebumps all over Bodkin's scalp as Bodkin flapped him away desperately. Wish gave a sigh of jealousy as she looked at Tsar's companions, particularly the sprites. She reached out a hand to the one Tsar called Squeeze-Juice, which was a funny-looking thing, furry as a bumblebee. I'm afraid that Squeeze-Juice bit her. "Wow," said Squeeze-Juice, sucking her fingers. "Sprites are tougher than I expected. They're kind of violent, and they don't seem to like me very much." "Of course they don't like you, you stupid warrior," said Tsar. "Your wicked mother captures our giants and dwarves and sprites in her terrible traps, and then we never see them again." "But my mother doesn't kill the sprites she captures," said Wish. "She just has this stone that takes magic away, that she keeps in her dungeons, and all she does is mercifully removes the magic by placing them upon the stone." Wish's voice trailed off as she remembered how much she didn't want the spoon to have his magic removed. "In a completely painless process," Bodkin prompted her. "And you think that doesn't kill them?" hissed Tippenstorm. "Why not just remove their hearts entirely? A sprite without its magic is a sprite who's lost its soul." "Oh, dear. Wish did not know what to think now. This all sounded so bad. But the magic is bad for them, she said falteringly. And they use it to curse us, and giants eat people. That's what my mother traps them. She told me so. Zara and the sprites laughed at such ignorance. Giants don't eat people. Wish looked up at the giant in wonder. And then, to Bodkin's horror, the giant leaned down and very gently picked Wish up in his giant fingers and lifted her into the air. It should have been frightening, but the giant moved so slowly and his fingers around her were so comfortingly huge that all Wish felt as she rose up, up, up into the treetops was excitement at the new experience. Look around you and look down, said the giant. What seems important from up here? Wish looked over the edge of the giant's fingers and caught her breath with the surprise of seeing the world from an entirely different viewpoint. The forest canopy stretched out for miles in every direction, and the night sky above was crammed with stars that went on forever. Down below, the humans were as small as sprites, and the sprites were just glowing flecks of dust. One of the humans, Bodkin, was shouting something, Put it down! But it was such a long way away. Wish had trouble hearing him, and his anxiety seemed from this vantage mistaken and missing the point. The forest is important, said Wish, and the stars. Correct, smiled the giant. Look into my eye, said the giant. Do I look like the kind of person who would eat human beings? The giant's face was covered with a network of wrinkles and laughter lines like the wandering paths of an old map, and his eyes were kind and wise. No, said Wish, you don't. Correct again, said the giant. Unlike ogres, giants are vegetarian. Crusher grinned and pulled up a small tree. He gave a huge smile at Wish as the entire tree disappeared into his enormous mouth, crunching whole branches as if they were mere twigs. Better for the digestion, he said dreamily. The first seeds of doubt about all that she had been told about magical creatures were sown in Wish's mind when she looked up at the giant's kind face, laughing so loudly at his bad jokes. Crusher doesn't seem like a good name for you, said Wish. It's short for Problem Crusher, said Crusher. Are you all right? Cried Bodkin anxiously. Of course I'm all right, said Wish as the giant gently put her back down. That giant really is not dangerous. Was it possible that warriors had been mistaken in their view of magic all along? Could there be another way of looking at things other than the warrior way? Wish's world was spinning upside down, and that is always a difficult moment. Don't listen to the princess, said Bodkin. They're putting a spell on us. They're trying to make us see things from a different point of view. Zar was looking equally thoughtful. Warriors want us to destroy all magic, he frowned, gazing at the enchanted sword he was holding in his hand. Surely a warrior princess shouldn't have magic objects. No, she shouldn't, said Bodkin. I have been saying that for some time. Be careful with that enchanted sword, Zar, urged Caliban. There's something wrong with it. I can feel it in my feathers. Staring at the blade, Zar suddenly realized Caliban was right. There was indeed something odd about the sword. Something so strange and out of the ordinary and downright uncanny that he nearly dropped it in its excitement. Oh my goodness, Caliban, gasped Zar. I don't believe this. This is incredible. I'll tell you what's wrong with this sword. It's made out of iron. And so is the enchanted spoon. They are iron and magic mixed together. Unbelievable, inconceivable. Impossible, gasped Caliban. Where did you get this sword? Breathed Zar, turning it over and over in his hands. I found it in the corridor, but it's an enchanted sword, so I think it made its way out of my mother's dungeons on its own, said Wish, her heart sinking. That's not your sword, Zar. It belongs to my mother. Give it back right now. Wish made a grab for the sword, and Zar whisked it out of her reach, Night Eye stepping between them and growling warningly so she couldn't get any closer. Hang on a second, said Zar. What is that? Zar noticed for the first time the words written on the blade. Once there were witches. The hair stood up on the back of his neck. Tsar turned the sword over and read the words on the other side. But I killed them. After the word them, there was an arrow that pointed to the tip of the sword, where something was now glistening. A single drop of green blood. The three humans looked at the green stain, slightly smoking. Don't touch it! Screeched Caliban. Chapter 6. Be careful what you wish for. The three youngsters, the bird, the sprites, and the animals stared at the single drop of green blood with growing excitement and horror. Witch blood! Said Tsar in excitement. What do you mean, witch blood? Protested Bodkin. Witches are extinct! But he did not scoff as convincingly as he might have done had he been tucked snugly behind the 7 ditches of the Warrior Hill fort. There was something about the Badwoods after dark, when the hair ice was prickling and growing all over each twisting twig of dead wood, that made one fear that possibly, just possibly, witches might not be so extinct after all. This is a witch-killing sword, said Tsar. Look, it says so on the blade. And it found its way out of your warrior dungeons because it sensed that witches were waking once more in the wood. That's not possible, said Bodkin. Although it is true, said Wish slowly, that just before Tsar caught us in its trap, we were being attacked by something, and I think I may have wounded something with the sword. You were being attacked by a witch, and that is witch blood, smiled Tsar. No, it isn't. Lots of things have green blood, said Bodkin. Cat monsters, ogre-breaths, green-teeth goblins, green-teeth ogres. It can't be a witch because witches are extinct. Probably extinct, corrected Caliban. Definitely not extinct, said Tsar, pointing to the centre of the clearing. There, right between Tsar's witch trap, was another black feather. A feather like a crow's, but significantly larger. Tsar picked it up. As the feather came close to the other feather that was hanging around Tsar's belt, both feathers began to glow. A dull greeny glow, a glow of ominous magic. And as Tsar held the feather up to the tip of the sword, the stain glowed too, like the luminescence of a firefly, but with a spookier green tinge to it. Witches, grinned Tsar. There was a terrible silence. Witches might have returned to the Badwoods, the most dreadful creatures ever to have walked the earth, alive once more. The two enemy groups, animal and sprite, stepped a little closer to one another, looking out at the forest, dark forest all around them, joining in mutual horror at what might possibly be out there. If that really is witch blood, it probably isn't, but if it is, even that single drop is very, very dangerous, shivered Caliban. Wipe it off on that tree bark, Tsar, before it hurts anyone. Oh, I'm not going to waste it, said Tsar. There must have been a reason that I caught someone called Wish in my witch trap. What are the chances of that happening? I wish to be magic, and the universe is trying to tell me that it's being granted my wish. Excuse me. It could be telling you something else. The universe is very complicated, shrieked Caliban. It could be testing you. It could be warning you not to make wishes as foolish as that one. But Tsar was not listening to Caliban. Here was fate showing him the way to get magic out of a witch. Don't touch that! Shouted Caliban, so anxious that the feathers dropped out of him like black rain. Don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it, hissed the sprites. But Tsar reached out the palm of his hand and pressed it hard against the tip of the sword where the green drop of blood was glistening. He scratched it once, twice in the shape of the first letter of his name, X. And from that moment, Tsar's story took a very different path, a path that would be very difficult to come back from. No! Begged Caliban, but it was too late. Too late, too late. The tip of the enchanted sword pierced Tsar's hand, and he screamed and doubled over in pain, holding his hand to his stomach. Caliban took his wings away from his eyes. Oh, Tsar, what have you done? Tsar straightened up. His eyes were alight with excitement, although the pain of it was making him shiver and shake his hand like it had been burned. Too late, grinned Tsar, holding up his hand. And there, in the centre of it, was the witch blood mixed with his blood in the shape of an X. When bad stars cross and worlds collide, X marks the spot. What did he do that for? Asked Wish. I'm going to use the witch blood to perform magic, said Tsar confidently. Will that work? Asked Wish. He has absolutely no idea, said Caliban. Do you think that Tsar is the sort of person who thinks things through? We don't know what that green stuff is. You better hope it isn't witch blood, Tsar, because witch blood is supposed to be exceptionally dangerous. You may be able to use it to perform magic, but it could turn you over to the dark side. You might become one of the witch's creatures. Your father would lose his kinship. Caliban was even more agitated than normal. But I have to admit, he said, cheering up a smidgen, it is much more likely not to be witch blood. After all, there are plenty of things with green blood in the Badwoods. It could be werewolf blood, and that would just turn you into a werewolf. Bother, said Tsar, shaking his hand a little uncomfortably. I never thought of that. Which would be inconvenient, said Caliban. All that not going out after midnight and howling at the moon and extra body hair and everything. But it wouldn't be the end of the world. It would be great, squealed Squeeze Juice. You'd be all very like me. Turn into a werewolf, Tsar, turn into a werewolf. But Tsar didn't look that happy about the idea of turning into a werewolf, and Wish and Bodkin took a step backward just in case. And it may just be Rogue breath. Blood, that doesn't have any effect at all, as far as we know. You're right, said Caliban. I shall look on the positive side. Let's hope it's just Rogue breath blood. In which case, we shouldn't really be hanging around here, because don't forget, Rogue breaths do try and follow you if they've wounded you to get their blood back. How do they do that? Asked Bodkin in horror. You don't want to know, said Caliban. Let's just say they're kind of attached to their blood, so their methods of recovering it aren't pretty. Well, whatever you say, I'm still hoping it's witch blood, said Tsar obstinately. But even if it isn't, I still have the sword, don't I? Tsar hung the sword from his belt. That's not your sword, said Wish. Give us it back, our sword. Sword, said Tsar, innocently opening his eyes wide. What sword? The enchanted sword that belongs to my mother and is presently shoved into your belt, said Wish. Oh, that sword, said Tsar, vaulting onto King Cat's back. That sword has been given to me by fate, so I can be the boy of destiny and lead my people to fight back against you warriors. You can't argue with fate. It hasn't been given to you by fate, yelled Wish. You're stealing. Give us back our sword, you burglar. Tsar ignored her and turned to others. Come on, everyone. We need to get back so I can beat Luther at the spelling competition. Hang on a second. What about us? Asked Wish. We can't go home, can we? Your sprites put a spell on my pony and sent it to sleep. The pony was indeed still snoring peacefully in the centre of the clearing. Well, you really shouldn't have gone out into the Badwoods after dark if you didn't want anything bad to happen, advised Tsar with sheer unbelievable Tsar-like cheek. At that moment there was a distant sound of stamping horse feet and a cry of dogs, and the sprites hissed in alarm. Warriors! Queen Sycorax's iron warriors had spotted the giant in the Badwoods territory. Tsar had been right about the deep thoughts and smoke, and were galloping out of the iron warrior fort to investigate. There you are, your problem solved, said Tsar to Wish. Your people are coming, and they can take you home. But we'll be in big trouble because we sneaked out of the fort without permission, said Wish. Please, will you help us get back to our own fort without them finding us? I haven't got time to do that before the competition starts, said Tsar, but I'll very kindly let you come with me, and you can stay the night in my room in Wizard Camp. That's burglary and kidnap, said Wish. Take us back to the Iron Warrior Fort and give me back my sword, you horrible wizard. Well, I really don't see what that's got to do with me, said Tsar in surprise. Why should I care about the problems of a couple of enemy warriors? I'm doing my best, but you're being very difficult. If Wish had been doubting that wizards were as bad as everybody said they were, she instantly changed her mind. My mother was right about you once, magic people. You're cheats, and you're treacherous, and you have no morals, and you're completely out of control, and she's right, squawked Caliban. You get back from the universe what you give to the universe. Kidnapping this girl and stealing her sword means you can expect something truly dreadful from the universe in return. Do as you would be done by, or you will be well and truly done. Well, the universe ought to be very pleased that I'm not leaving them here to be touched by witches. Can't understand why you're not very happy for me, Tsar frowned. It's terribly selfish of you. I am the boy of destiny. I am the chosen one. He turned his animals on the giant. Night Eye, Forest Eye Crusher, bring these stupid warriors and their pony to the fort after me. I shall fare with the warriors too, squeaked Squeeze Juice. I shall stay with them and look out for the jugglers. Don't feel you have to, Squeeze Juice, said Tsar. I want to, sang Squeeze Juice. I likes her. She's a bit funny looking, and she's only got one eye, but she smells more like an apricot than a homuncular being, and I likes her hair. Squeeze Juice flew into Wish's hair and fluffed up the back of it, so it made a fuzzy little bird's nest for him to hide in. Well, there's no accounting for tastes, huffed Tsar crossly. I'd have thought you'd want to hang out with the boy of destiny, but if you feel sorry for these poor weirdos, it's up to you, Squeeze Juice. Come on, everyone, yelled Tsar. Race it back to the fort. King Cat leapt forward in a greeny-grey bound, and the animals followed in a wild, crazy pack, the sprites zooming ahead. Turning back time is impossible. Probably. But if Tsar could have seen Wish after he left her in the clearing, and if he could have seen the look on her face as she suddenly realised she couldn't make things right by putting back the sword, and that her mother would inevitably now discover her disobedience in that uncanny way that mothers do, and if he could have known that Wish's mother wasn't the kind of mother who had given her daughter the impression that she would forgive her daughter anything, if he could have seen Wish crying, with a spoon who couldn't talk, trying to comfort her with no words, and the assistant bodyguard, also sad, patting her on her back, and Squeeze Juice pulling faces and turning cartwheels to try and cheer her up. If he could have seen all that, would Tsar have wanted to turn back time, even though that is impossible? Possibly. But looking into other people's lives when they are not right in front of you is not possible. Probably. I say probably because turning back time and looking into other people's lives when they are not right in front of you are both things that require the kind of magic we call imagination. Tsar had not developed that kind of magic yet, any more than he could move objects with the sheer power of his mind, or fly without the helpful addition of wings. As soon as Wish was out of sight, Tsar promptly forgot about her and carried on with the much more important task of congratulating himself on how clever he had been as he rode on King Cat's back to Wizard Camp. Meanwhile, back in the clearing, Wish had stopped crying, because Wish was a practical person and crying wasn't going to help. What are we going to do now? Said Bodkin, with round, goggling eyes bulging with dismay at the way the situation had developed. We're just going to have to follow that cheating burglar of an Azar boy to his wizard camp and steal the enchanted sword back off him, and then we can sneak back into our own fort before morning, said Wish. The sword is magic mixed with iron, and we mustn't let it fall into the hands of the wizards. Oh, is that all we have to do? And here I was thinking we had a problem. On the plus side, we do get to ride the snowcats, said Wish. That's a plus side, said Bodkin, looking in horror at the gigantic beasts and standing uncomfortably close to them. But the wild, banned animals! It's against the rules! Timidly, Wish put out her hand and touched the unbelievable softness of Forest Heart's head. She'd been absolutely dying to ride on one of the snowcats from the moment she'd set eyes on them. Gingerly, Wish climbed onto his back. Will you be following us, Crusher? Wish called up to the giant. Crusher looked delighted to have his feelings consulted. I'm a bit slower than these snowcats, he said, giving a great smile like a cracked pumpkin. But I'll be right behind you. I'll be fine. I'm a giant. Of course, what was she thinking? A giant could take care of itself. He was probably a terrifying fighter, even if he was a giant. Follow Tsar, please, Snowcat, said Wish. Forest Heart leapt up and bounded forward with velvet suddenness. I'm actually riding a snowcat in real life, thought Wish, with disbelieving excitement as the lynx weaved smoothly through the trees, the night wind blowing back Wish's hair. Wish forgot the perils of the moment and whooped in joy. By holly and mistletoe and witch's toenails and stinky breath of the goggle-eyed goblin hopper, thought Bodkin all alone in a clearing, that little princess was more like her mother than she looked, stubborn, reckless, pig-headed, and the wizard boy was even worse. What was it with royalty? Maybe all the rich food they ate went to their heads. But what could poor Bodkin do? He couldn't stay here all alone in the possibly werewolf-infested wood, enjoying the cool night air and playing Spot the Rogue Breath. And besides, he ought to be protecting and controlling the uncontrollable princess. That was his job. So reluctantly he climbed on top of the second band animal, who equally reluctantly allowed himself to be climbed upon, and leapt forward after Wish. The giant crusher leaned down and gently picked up the sleeping pony in one giant hand. He smoothed the pony's mane with one giant finger, like a human might pet a mouse, before very gently putting the pony in one of his pockets and very slowly lumbering after Bodkin and Wish. "Don't worry," shouted Wish across to Bodkin as Night Eye caught up with Forest Heart. "It's going to be fine." "Don't worry," said Bodkin. "It's going to be fine. So far tonight we have broken out of a warrior fort without permission, taken an enchanted spoon as a bait, stolen your mother's extremely precious, as it turns out exceptionally dangerous sword, let that same sword fall into wizard hands, thus putting into peril the entire warrior against magic, and now we are travelling into the heart of enemy territory on the back of a whole load of bad animals, having been kidnapped by a lunatic wizard boy who may or may not have turned out to be into werewolves. Why would I worry?" Bodkin's stomach gave a loud grumble. "And we've missed supper. Dear buggers, my favourite." Squeeze Juice zipped ahead like a little streak of white lightning, screeching, "Isis the lookout! Isis the lookout! Ah, there's a jaguar! There's a jaguar! Oh, no sorries. My mistake, it's a tree trunk. Sorries, everybody." Silence fell as they followed Zar further and further into the wild woods, deeper and deeper into the unknown, where strange eyes seemed to glare from behind trees, and terrifying shrieks of the night time screamed all around them. That could be jaguars, or could be werewolves, or could be worse than all of these. Luckily, Bodkin did not see two things that happened after they left the clearing, or he would have been even more worried than he already was. Firstly, the giant crusher was captured by Sycorax's Iron Warriors. Wish had been right to be concerned about him. Giants are deep thinkers, but unfortunately the fact that they operate in a slower time zone puts them at a severe disadvantage when faced with a much smaller enemy. Crusher had just had time to think, "What on earth is going?" before the warriors on their plunging horses exploded into the clearing and wound iron chains round and round his legs. The warriors warned him that if they made a sound, they would kill the pony. So the giant was silent as he was dragged away towards Iron Warrior Fort, making the treetops sway as he stumbled and blundered after the angry ant-like warriors. What were they so cross about? Giants didn't understand crossness. It seemed like such an obvious waste of time. And then there was silence. But the air in the clearing seemed to chill a few degrees colder than it had been before, and the snow moved and swelled like a white sea turning stormy. Was it that something was descending into the clearing? Had something been watching? Could it be that something was looking for the enchanting sword? Ah, yes, that would have made Bodkin worry. But if that something was a witch, however unlikely that may seem, Bodkin was going to need very advanced bodyguard skills indeed. Witches' feet make no footprint. Their bodies make no shadows. But they make the trees, the land, and the moss a little colder as they pass. And we're going to leave it there. And we will see you tomorrow. Have a lovely rest of the day. Goodbye.